Welcome to Native Notion, a gaming podcast that isn't afraid to talk anything and everything. Here's your host, Klamath.
Yo, what's good? What's really good? I appreciate you guys showing up today. I'm sorry that I haven't been around recently. Life has really picked up for me, as I would suspect that most people have. Most of the stuff I'm doing is outdoors rather than indoors. So hopefully that's the case for everybody else. As well, I'd like to share an update that I'm trying to improve my health physically. At this time, I am down over 30 pounds since I started dieting. Well, not actually since I started dieting, but in December, I weighed myself when I went to the doctor. I was unhappy with that. And then in March, I made an active stance to start dieting. So since then, since December, I'm down over 30 pounds. So yeah, here's to more of that. Anyway, on today's episode, I want to be talking about what is a hot topic for me, maybe not for everybody else, but based on the fact that it is getting warmer, it should be a hot topic for everyone. If you did not know, that May is considered to be Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. For those who don't know, I do ride a motorcycle. I've been doing it since 2009. I have crashed twice. Fortunately, neither of those killed me, but one of those did seriously injure me, which was the first one. I was on a test drive of this motorcycle. It was the first time, honest to God, the first time I've ever ridden one on a street. I have gone out to ride dirt bikes before, so this one would not be my first experience on two wheels, nor the fact that like bicycles have been ridden before, but that's not the same. I did well on that drive, and I was with the owner because he had a second motorcycle, and we were just going, and I wanted to turn around at one point, but he let me know, like, let's keep going. So I did. It was on a 2-lane highway, and this 2-lane highway came up to a small town. This is when I was living in New York. It came up to a small town where it was a strange kind of intersection. It was a one-way stop, but a 3-way direction. So the road that I was on came up to a north-south road, and it curves to go north. At that point, the north and south traffic do not stop. I was looking for a place to turn around, so I didn't see the stop sign. I came around, I noticed one, I looked behind me to signal what I'm going to do, and I looked back, and that's when I realized that I am less than 100 feet from a head-on collision at, 30 miles an hour on my motorcycle. I did the only thing that I knew how to do at that point, which was I dumped the bike. I absolutely put myself onto the ground because I didn't. If anybody knows the collision aspects that are associated with motorcycles, there is a significantly higher rate of serious death or serious injury and death when you collide. So I dumped the motorcycle. Fortunately, this traffic that was there was only southbound at that point, and it was not northbound. So the bike went sliding across the road, as did I. I had some pretty significant injuries from that, mostly relating to like road rash. I didn't have a jacket on. I didn't have gloves on. I was wearing a t-shirt and jeans. No. I did have a helmet. No safety shoes or anything like that. So I got pretty messed up. I also dislocated my shoulder. Broke my wrist and my pinky in the process. It was a recovery process. Anyway, I bring that up because this is around the time of the year that this happened, and you see a lot of different instances where this seems to be the case. It's not always going to be a first-time rider. It's not always going to be an inexperienced rider. It's not going to be distracted driving. It's not going to be inebriated driving or anything of that nature. It is literally just that people don't actively look for motorcyclists, and that causes a lot of issues. On top of that, or in conjunction with that, there's a lot of people who do very dumb things on motorcycles, so it's a two-way street in that sense. You have people that, and I've seen it myself, they do wheelies when they're going high rate of speed, as if it isn't dangerous enough that you're on a vehicle that has no enclosure and no safety barriers associated with it, and you're doing a like some speed, highway speeds, or even faster. I've seen people that have put both feet off to the side. I've seen people weave in and out of traffic. I've seen people ride in the emergency lanes. Like, these are all things that I've witnessed myself. Some of them while I was on my bike, and some of them while I was in a car. You have to be aware of that. Like, people are going to do stupid things. Similarly, I've been hit by a car. This was in 2019 time frame. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 2019. I was on not a surprise, a 2-lane highway out in the middle of nowhere. And I was behind some traffic coming out of a state park where the speed limit was 25 miles an hour. The highway itself was a 50-mile-an-hour one. So when we got out, I waited, I don't know, probably 1,000 feet or something, and the person that was in the front, I was probably behind like 4 cars or something. The person in the front didn't speed up. There was a car behind me, just one of them, and I said, okay, well, I'm on my way to work at this point, so I need to get going. There was room for me to pass 2 cars and get in, and then pass the 2 cars after that. So that was my plan. There was no traffic coming from the other direction. So I was taking the safety precautions that were necessary in that sense. And I looked over my shoulder and I turned on my blinker and moved over, and then I got hit by the car. The lady that was in the car apparently was running late to a dentist appointment and said that she hit 120 miles an hour before she passed me. So I didn't see her when I looked over and I looked into my mirror there, and I merged. Fortunately, she didn't rear end me, but I ended up getting hit on the side of her car. It broke my foot pedal. It broke one of the locks on one of my saddlebags. It broke one of my mirrors. My elbow hit the mirror, her passenger side mirror. It ended up destroying the hubcap on her car, and then dented her door from the collision. Fortunately, she at least was paying attention enough to notice that I was merging at that point and clearly did not see her, so she did brake. And swerved slightly. Just, when you're going that fast, there's only so much you can do. The bad part of that is the officer, when he took both of our stories, he was empathetic with what had happened. He had no official record, so he couldn't cite her for dangerous driving. All he could say is that I merged into her, so I got a ticket for that. Kind of frustrating. She didn't pursue any charges, obviously, or anything like that, but it's one of those things. Like, this happens. You have to be very aware, heightened awareness associated with this to be able to hopefully prevent things from happening that are like that. It's not an uncommon story at this point for people to go out on a day and come home and then hear about somebody that died in a motorcycle crash. It's very, 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 very unlikely that people hear about motorcycle accidents that happened, because somebody who crashes and gets injured generally is not news, so you won't hear that kind of thing. kind of frustrating, but there are ways for you to be able to there are ways for you to find out information. Now, it's all going to be information that is in the past. Every time that there is an accident of any kind, that data is end up being sent to the National Highway Traffic Safety Association, and they track all of this. It's a government entity. You can find their website at nhtsa.gov. If you are interested in finding any statistics of any kind, it's basically all of them, right? All of the statistics that are reported. Some of these are not reported. Single vehicle accidents that happen in the middle of nowhere that don't, nobody ever responds to. Obviously, that's not going to get reported or anything like that. And certainly there are aspects that may be missed in that. So realize that there's room for fudge error in this. Maybe more, maybe less. I would tend to say there's going to be more that has happened physically out in the world than what is being reported, just based on the fact that not everybody reports things. Not cops don't always get involved and everything like that. One of the things to note during this is, and this has become a significantly larger issue since the advent of smartphones. If you're the type of person that messes with your phone while you're driving, then I can only urge you to not do that. It's not only dangerous for you, it's dangerous for all the people around you, and it's significantly dangerous for the people that don't have the safety measures that are in a car. There are lots and lots of people. You can probably name one off the top of your head right now that's I was in an accident and somebody hit me because they weren't paying attention. You combine that with the idea that today's world, people are a lot more aggressive on the road. A lot of that has come from the pandemic and the people that were forced to stay at home during that time period and not having a release and all of that, and that we have since gone beyond that point. Mind you, we are officially out of the pandemic per the CDC. I didn't hear anything about that on the news. It wasn't noteworthy, apparently. Kind of odd. Anyway, that is beside the point. So people are getting back into real life, and I got to see it. I'm a person that is considered to be an essential worker, so I didn't get to stay home to do my job. In fact, I can't. My job is completely incapable of being done from home. Everything I do, based on security reasons, has to be done in a local location. So the entire time I have been traveling to and from work, and obviously there was a significant drop off during especially the beginning of the pandemic, and then you start to see the reincorporation process and people starting moving back out, and you see a lot more frustration. There's been a lot more reported incidents of people firing guns out of cars during traffic incidents. There's a lot more road rage that's associated with this. It's all just hopefully it's kind of a bell curve where it's, as we come out of this, people are getting used to it again, and their mentality changes, their psyche changes, and they tapers back down after a while. Why that's important for this episode is because often the person that's on a motorcycle doesn't have any defensive nature behind somebody that's going to take their 3,000-pound vehicle and take it on, or take it into them. I don't think, I want to say that's going to be a significant minority of people, both ends, where somebody's using a vehicle as a weapon. I'm not trying to say that, but what I am saying is that a lot of times you see that. I was riding, in fact, I was on a memorial ride for not somebody that died in a motorcycle accident, but a rider that I used to ride with that, due to age and natural circumstances, passed away, and we were taking them to a local cemetery. We were effectively the funeral procession. We had cars behind us that followed us, right? And there's a natural order in the way that you're going to do this. We were on the highway, and it's a 2-lane highway. Not two, one in each direction, but like four actual lanes, with a center divide. And we're in the left lane. I'm on the inside of, well, on our side, the inside. I'm away from the guardrail. And there's an on-ramp, and it's a very known high traffic area. There's just a lot of people that live off of this in this area where people are merging onto the highway. And there's a lady who merged on, and I looked right at her. She had her blinker on. She never looked over, not one time. Did not look over one single time. She got into the right-hand lane, so she was okay, and just continued to merge. I kicked her door. She had no idea that I was there. Zero clue that I was there, nor the other 15 or 20 people that were with me, all on motorcycles. She was probably in her 80s or something of that nature. I don't know if hearing was a problem for her or anything like that, but I can tell you what, when I kicked that door, I was not messing around. I'm going 60 miles an hour at this point. I'm at no point am I interested in having somebody merge on me. This is a common thing. You see it all over the place. People just don't look when they are doing things on the road. They assume that the area is clear and then make this turn in a much less sense, but a rising trend, right? People will be on their phone or doing their makeup or reading a book or somebody's self-driving vehicle, and they're not paying attention to the road, like all of these things. The people that have been drinking, people that have been that are high, smoking, whatever drug you want to put in there, right? And they don't have natural control of their vehicle, and that ends up causing a lot of problems. You combine that with the 23-year-old that is on their first bike, and they have some super powered machine that's capable of doing 200 miles an hour, and they feel invincible while they're on it, and they're doing dumb things, right? And that's a recipe for disaster. It is wildly important that people understand how much of a problem this actually is for people. There's a statistic that I saw, and I believe it was from 2020. I believe it was 2020. So motorcycles make up a whopping 3% of all traffic in the United States. This may be different in other locations, mind you, but I'm talking specifically from my experience. So 3% of all traffic, and for at least like half of the country, most of those people don't ride from like October to March timeframe. That's winter time. That's when it gets icy, and that's really dangerous at that point for a motorcycle. So generally speaking, these are going to be warm weather aspects, which is why May is considered to be National Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month, because it starts to warm up. A vast majority of riders will start riding again in May. I am one of them. I am not interested in going out in the rain and it being 30 degrees and trying to ride in that. That is not why I ride. There are some people here where I live that do that. That they have a different perspective, and that's what they like to do. So 3% of all riders in the United States, this is in 2020, are motorcyclists, whereas 14% of all traffic fatalities occurred with motorcycles. Keep that in mind. You're 3% versus 14% of deaths. That's a significant difference. It makes sense because motorcyclists don't have the safety measures that are built into cars. So if they're in an accident, they are significantly more likely to be injured and or die. It is something that I hope people understand, that it's not what I would call it's not what I'd call something that requires you to exert a special amount of attention to be able to understand and or be able to change the culture that we have. I am literally just saying you need to do the base things that are necessary of you as a driver and a rider to be able to make that happen. That's not a lot, right? Just stop doing the things that are making your life significantly harder and more dangerous for that matter. Other statistics that we do have. So this is from the NHTSA. In 2020, there were 5,579 motorcyclists killed, 14% of all traffic fatalities. This is the highest number of motorcyclists killed since they started tracking this data in 1975. That's a pretty significant statistic to be able to try to understand and comprehend what's happening there. I think it's fair to say that as time has gone on since 1975, more people have ridden, and as more people ride, then more people there's going to be more statistics that are associated with them. So it kind of makes sense. But the fact that it keeps going up, that says a lot about traffic trend data. So in 2020, the number of motorcycles fatalities increased by 11% from 2019, from 5,044 to 5,579. The only thing that I can think of is there was a significant influx of motorcyclists at that point because of the pandemic, and then suddenly people had all of this money, and whatever. Somehow there were less people on the road, so I'm not sure how more people in that specific year died. It's kind of strange. An estimated 82,528 motorcyclists were injured in 2020, a 2% decrease from 83,814 motorcyclists in 2019. That is significant in saying that, hey, in all of these crashes that occurred, it's actually gone down. Okay, the number of injuries have gone down, but the number of fatalities have gone up. That tells me that speed generally is going to be a factor. Generally. Per vehicle miles traveled in 2020, motorcyclist fatalities occurred nearly 28 times more frequently than passenger car occupant fatalities in all traffic crashes. That's a factor of safety. Motorcyclists are generally just not as safe. And then 36% of all motorcycle riders involved in fatal crashes in 2020 were riding without a valid motorcycle license. That is a big, big deal. It's not to say that people aren't experienced, because there's going to be plenty of people that ride motorcycles without doing the necessary paperwork behind it. That's effectively what it is. The key difference for a motorcycle license compared to like a Class C driver's license is you're required to take motorcycle safety courses. So that's defensive riding. That's learning how to go over objects. That's learning how to turn. That's learning the proper way to ride in tandem. That's learning how to S curve so you can keep balance. That's teaching you techniques so that way you don't hurt yourself while you're riding. Right? There's a lot of really good things that go into motorcycle safety courses, and if you're a person that rides a motorcycle and you haven't been to a motorcycle safety course, highly recommend it. There are advanced courses. If you're a person that's been riding for years and years and years and you're fully experienced and you understand the basics behind how to ride a motorcycle, when to foot brake, when to hand brake, things of that nature, how not to go over the handlebars, then they have advanced courses that are more designed for people that do significantly more, that don't need the base understanding of how to ride a motorcycle and the defensive nature that's associated with it. Highly recommend it. Highly, highly recommend it. So in 2020, motorcycle riders involved in fatal crashes had higher percentages of alcohol impairment than drivers of other other motor vehicle types. 27% for motorcycles, 23% for passengers cars, 19% for light trucks, and 3% for large trucks. That's a deceiving statistic when they say percentage-wise. There's a significantly less percentage of overall riders that are motorcyclists. But what they're saying is, of that 3% or whatever percent of motorcyclists, more of them in a apples to apples kind of comparison if you were saying that all of the motorcycles are one pool, there's more motorcyclists per pool that have been drinking compared to the pool that is all passenger side vehicles. So that is percentage based. That's not actual numbers. 41% of motorcycle riders who died in single vehicle crashes in 2020 were alcohol impaired. That's actually a very large issue. The very first thing that goes away when you've been drinking is your balance. That's been taught to us from a very young age, or most of us have been taught about that from a very young age. The moment that you start drinking, you start to lose your balance. And the number one thing that you need when you're on a motorcycle is your ability to react and keep your balance. Like, legitimately, it's wild to me that people will go out and drink and ride on a motorcycle, because it is like an exponential difference of how much more dangerous it becomes at that point. In states without universal helmet laws, 57% of motorcyclists killed in 2020 were not wearing helmets, as compared to 11% in states with universal helmet laws. That's there. I've been in a couple of states where that's not the case. I lived in Arizona, and in Arizona, you don't have to wear a helmet as long as you're not on the highway. When I was in New York, I went to New Hampshire and Vermont, and you get into Vermont, and there's no helmet law whatsoever. And I went out to, there's a motorcycle rally called Laconia. It's the second largest on the East Coast, Daytona being the largest. And there were people riding without helmets all over the place. I understand from a perspective of, like, it was 102 degrees that day. You just want air to flow across your head. I get it. Having a person that's been down multiple times, I take the safety precautions that are necessary to protect the most important thing that I have, which is my brain. I hope other people do the same. Truly, it's a stark difference with how much that is varying. It has been proven with data, like straight data, how much safer it is to wear a helmet on a motorcycle in terms of a crash killing you versus a crash not killing you. So there are just lots and lots and lots. There's data from everywhere. That's from the National Highway Safety Traffic Advisory Committee. And there's, mind you, there's not a lot of data from 2021 and like none from 2022 because it hasn't been analyzed yet. And it's going to be a lot of times just on the states to publish their data before it gets published by the NHTSA. So you may have to research your own specific state in order to find what it is that, like the data in your location. I tend to look at the information that's associated with the state that I live in, and I also compare that to what it's like in California. There's a lot of people that move here from California, so there's a lot of similarities with how people are driving. And according to an attorney website that talked about it, according to the California Highway Patrol's SWI-TRS data for 2021, total of 13,381 injury and fatality motorcycle crashes occurred in the state. In 2020, 539 motorcyclists were killed. So that's information that they released in 2021. Specifically speaking, they said that Los Angeles County had the greatest number of accidents, with about 2,800 of them, which makes sense. It's the largest city, and therefore you're going to have the largest percentage of people that are involved. Of the 2,800, 133 were killed and 3,068 were injured. About 30% were sustained injuries. There's just data and data and data and data that you can find that talk about this. There was a news article that came out just recently. So I live in Washington State, and I pay attention to a lot of the traffic safety that happens in the area. We had a major roadway that's, I don't know, 2 miles, three miles from my house or something like that. It's not very far. That got shut down at the end of last month due to an accident that happened between a motorcyclist and a vehicle. Let's see. It says a 30-year-old man died after a motorcycle versus truck collision on this road back at the end of April. The incident occurred just before 3:30 p.m. So this is broad daylight time frame. Broad daylight. This road is 4 lanes worth of traffic with businesses on every side of the road. And it's a major intersection that's right there. So there's a lot of cross traffic that's in the area. So it's not an issue of darkness. It's not an issue of, in this case, there wasn't an issue that's associated with speed. The speed limit is 40 there, but it's where this happened was like just after the intersection, so I don't think they were driving 40 at that point. And there was no impairment on either side. There's no impairment on either side. So the man that was killed was riding a 1998 Harley Davidson motorcycle that was hit by a 2008 Dodge Ram 1500 pickup truck driven by a 79-year-old man. So there's part of that there. The facts that are coming out is like this man that was driving, he probably doesn't have the necessary awareness to be seeing motorcycles. It's not to say that he isn't able to drive or anything like that, but his reaction time is certainly lower. His sight has probably decreased over the years and things of that nature. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. First responders had the Olympic man airlifted to Harborview Medical Center, which is like the state's #1 hospital. And then he died the next morning based off of succumbing to the injuries that he had. The truck driver was towing a boat, and based on a preliminary investigation, he said it appeared that the young man tried to turn left from a private driveway and failed to yield to the motorcycle. That tells me he didn't see him. He just didn't see him. On my motorcycle, I have replaced the exhaust on it, and I've put exterior lighting on that, and it is bright white. The intention for that is it is both loud and very visual. If somebody was to tell me they didn't see me, they're a fucking liar. That is, I mean, you think I'm joking. You can hear my motorcycle at the end of the road, and I live a quarter mile from at the end of the road. You know, it is very loud, intentionally. When I was living in upstate New York, this was after I got into the accident. I was riding along the main road that went through town. I came off of a side road. There was a ton of traffic. There happened to be an opening. I had a sport bike at the time. I no longer have a sport bike. And I merged into traffic. When I merged into traffic, there was enough room for, say, like, I don't know, 2 cars at that point. So I felt comfortable in my ability of doing that. I ended up merging in front of a police officer, and that police officer pulled me over. When he pulled me over, I turned off my bike, and he walked up. He goes, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And I said, "No, I actually have no idea. I wasn't speeding. I didn't take any dangerous acts. I didn't cut anybody off. I'm like legitimately not sure why you pulled me over." He goes, "You cut me off on the roadway." And I was like, "How did I cut you off?" And we had a discussion. It wasn't like there wasn't a bunch of like it wasn't arguing or anything like that. Shortly after we started talking, there was another police car that pulled up, who was in the parking lot that was very near to that, and it's not uncommon for police officers to show up in multiple vehicles and stuff like that. So the conversation we had started leaning towards he thought that my exhaust was illegal. I had a stock exhaust with the exception of the muffler. I removed the muffler and put a slip-on on it. So it's certainly louder than it used to be, intentionally though. There's a sticker you will see or a patch that you will see that motorcyclists wear that say that loud pipes save lives. They're not lying. That is incredibly true. So when the other cop pulled up, he gets out of the car. He goes, "Hey, what's going on?" And he goes, "Oh, I just got this guy here." And he goes, "Okay, so what's going on?" And he goes, Did you happen to see him?" He goes, "No." And mind you, where he was, I drove right past him. So this is the second cop. I drove right past him. So the fact he didn't see me is very, very, it's wild. But, you know, I mean, he could have been working on his laptop or something. He was parked. It's not like he was doing anything unsafe. It doesn't. Anyway. So he goes, "No, I didn't see him." And I said, "But did you hear me?" He goes, "Yeah, of course I heard you." And I was like, yeah, exactly. And he goes, "I think your exhaust," the guy that pulled me over, "I think your exhaust is illegal." And I was like, "I don't think you're qualified to say that, but I don't know what I've done that's illegal. All I'm saying is that right now you're pulling me over because you felt like I did something dangerous where I didn't, and you're getting confirmation that the reason that the thing that you don't like about my motorcycle is the reason that I have that." That in that town, it was not uncommon for sport bike riders to be pulled over, and then Harley Davidsons or other cruisers or baggers or whatever it is, to be let go, even though there could be, like, you know, the same amount of noise coming from their exhaust. So that is, it's just it's an important thing for motorcyclists. I can tell you what, there's very few motorcyclists that say that they got their exhaust solely for the purpose of sounding cool. It's not really a thing for motorcyclists. I mean, it is, but it's not. A lot of times they do it, and it's like, yeah, it sounds good, but also people can hear me on the road now. Because from a dealership, the exhaust on a bike is generally like, it's got like 4 mufflers inside of it, right? On top of your own muffler that is installed on the end. So, yeah, kind of wild to say that. This continues to go on. It says Knight, who I believe was the officer involved, said the police did not believe speed was a factor in this collision, and there's been no indication that either drivers were impaired. And then they're evaluating charges. I remember that my wife brought that up to me. Obviously, it was like a Facebook thing, right, where it was happening, and she's very concerned about things like that because obviously I ride the bike and stuff like that. And I was just like, God, man, it's just another incident of where this continues to ring true. And then a week later, there was in the same intersection, one was heading north-south, and the other one was heading east-west. The same intersection, there was a 20-year-old man who was on his bike and ended up getting into a car versus motorcycle collision and got airlifted to Harborview Medical Center. I don't know the status of this person. But it's in a week time period, or a week and a half time period, I think it was. There's another incident in the same intersection where, you know, somebody, they're putting their life in their own hands, and it's being tested. It's one person has lost their lives for sure. One person has lost their lives. Yeah, this happened at 12:30 in the afternoon. Again, middle of the day. Like, there's no reason that you can't see somebody unless you're not paying attention. Now, well, I mean, if people are doing dumb things, you can't control that. Right? In this case, speed wasn't a factor, and alcohol impairment or drug impairment was not a factor. So again, it's basically ideal situation. It's nice and warm outside. The people are driving the speed limit. No one's doing anything extraordinary. People are just impatient. That's what it came down to. They collided in the middle turn lane, which was like, what? Driver of the pickup truck was uninjured, which makes sense. There's no signs of impairment, and it has been wrapped up. And mind you, I said it was in the same intersection. Well, the paint on the ground from where they marked up everything for the previous one was still in the roadway where this happened. So it is based off of the account for the police responders, because it was in the same area. If I'm not mistaken, it was the same. Yeah, it was the same people that responded, the same officer that was the one that spoke before, and he came out and said, like, it's eerie how similar these two accidents are. Just all I can say is, like, please do everything you can to be aware of everything that's happening around you, especially when you're in a vehicle. That could be on a motorcycle or in a car or a truck, or whatever it may be. If you're in a vehicle, be aware that's not just the driver, by the way. If you're a passenger, please do everything you can, assist the driver. Man, it's entirely too important to the lives of the people that are involved for you to ignore that. I hope that rings true for lots of people. I hope that things are finding you well. I hope that you never have to experience anything like that. I have been twice now. People I know that were killed. One in a head-on collision, and another and somebody who turned into a business in front of them in motorcycle accidents. Right, speed wasn't an issue in either one of those. On the first one, the passenger on the motorcycle passed out on the back and forced them over the double yellow line, and they went head on and died on impact. The second one was the driver that turned into the business didn't see him on the road, and I don't know the full details as far as like what he did, but he collided, and it wouldn't surprise me if he died on impact as well. Right, the broadside of a vehicle, when you hit them straight on, even if you brake, sometimes it's not enough. So yeah, please do everything you can. I hope that you don't have to experience the things that I've had to experience. It's truly tragic, especially when it's avoidable. If you are a motorcycle rider, please do everything you can to keep yourself safe and be responsible as a rider on the road. You know what you're supposed to do. You know that drivers aren't looking for you. Be defensive. Be extremely defensive. If you are a person that uses a passenger vehicle, understand that as the summer months come closer and it warms up, there's going to be more motorcycles that are on the road, so that requires you to be more attentive and be aware of that. Take the steps necessary to ensure that you're not part of the reason at all and not involved. All right, I hope this catches you at a good time. I hope that you are well, and I'm gonna sign off now. But I hope to be able to put out some more episodes and things like that. As it stands right now, I am essentially recording when ideas come to my mind. So if there's anything that you want me to talk about, or anything that you find interesting, or things that you might think that I have an opinion on that you'd be interested in hearing, please let me know. As well, I will entertain the idea of having people on the podcast. I do have a plan where I'm going to be doing one with one of my best friends growing up. We'll see if and when that can happen. Some life is getting in the way, so it is what it is. We'll make it happen. Yeah, feel free to reach out. You can find me on most of the major platforms. I don't have a TikTok. I'm on Discord, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all of those different things. I haven't streamed in a long time because, well, even though I have time, like right now, I have time to do this. A lot of times there are other things that take precedence, like, getting work done around the house and yard work and, things of that nature. And then in the afternoons, my kids are home and stuff like that. And there's just not conducive for that. Yeah, feel free to reach out. I appreciate you. Let me know what you think about the podcast. You can DM me on any of those. I haven't been active on Twitter. In fact, I haven't been on Twitter for a while. So let me know. You can reach out to me. I'll do my best to get back to you. All right. Hope this finds you well, and I will catch you the next time. Take it easy. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Native Notion. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, keep up with Klamath by following him on Twitch, Hover, and Twitter. All links are in the show notes. Until next time.